Welcome to Excel Basics. I hope you watched the previous video about the Excel intro so you learned a little bit about the ribbon that's at the top of the screen here. We have a partially filled out workbook and we're going to do some editing, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks inside of Excel to hopefully help you have a little easier experience when you are working on it for work or for educational purposes. So the title of your workbook is going to be at the top in the center of this green banner here. I've called mine Midwest Regional Numbers, and as you can tell, it's been saved recently. If you go down here, you'll see different tabs that are what's called worksheets. I have named one of them 2018, another 2019, but now we have to rename the 2020. So one thing you can do is double click in there, or you can right click and rename. Double click tends to be faster, but either way, whichever you prefer. And I'm just going to type in 2020 for year 2020. So we're going to click on this plus button to add a new sheet. And when you do that, what it's going to do is it's going to add that sheet after the sheet that you had highlighted. So if I click that again, it puts it in front of sheet 6. So you can right click and delete, or you can right click and insert tabs, rename. You can move tabs. There's a lot of options within this. So we're just going to delete these. These arrows that are grayed out, I don't have enough tabs, but when you have enough tabs, you can left click and right click, and it'll actually move throughout this tab bar down here. So if I move this further down, see now that I've moved the scroll bar down, you can't see the 2018 tab, so now you can start using these buttons here. So that's for when you have way too many tabs open. Whatever worksheet you are on, your tab for that worksheet will be highlighted. You can even change your tab colors for different years if you want. So like this one, I changed orange, and you can see how that's orange. This one I can change to red, and this one here, I've already got a green color in the table. So I'm going to change this tab color to green. As mentioned in the previous video, each cell has its own name, and you can see it right here in the left of the formula bar. It's called the name box. And so whatever that I click on, it changes. So the name is going to be based on the column and then the row. So we're in column C and row 12. And so it's going to show up as C row 12. And then the formula bar is going to show whatever formula or data you have typed in there. And if you want to change it, you can change it in here. You can double click inside that cell and change it from there. You can always right click and cut, copy, insert, and all of that inside of your cell. You can also alter your styling in there. You can alter your font size and style, whether it's bolded, colored, so on and so forth. You can even change the formatting, whether it's accounting, date, time, or general. There's a lot of ways to select cells. You can click and drag. You can use Control Shift and arrows, Shift arrows, Control Shift end. So there's a lot of ways that you can do that. The Find and Select tool is really nice. I've briefly mentioned this in Word. You can find different things. It'll tell you, or you can replace. You can find and replace as well. And when you do that, you can either replace the specific one that's highlighted or replace all of them inside of this specific worksheet. I know I mentioned this earlier in the other video, but you can copy and you can paste with all these different types of options. You can link picture, just a link, formatting can be included, values, all of your different types of formatting, including the formulas, can get transferred when you cut, copy, and paste. Your undo and redo, just like in Word and other Outlook products, they're up here on the top. You can do Control Z to undo and Control Y to redo. One thing that I find is very important is sizing of your different columns. One thing that you can do is when you go in between your columns and your rows, you'll see the change of your cursor. When you do that and you double click, it automatically changes the size of your column or your row to auto fit whatever is in that column or row. So I just showed you how to do it with a column. We'll do it again with a row. You'll notice there's no changes in the height of the row because the height was correct. So I'm going to make this larger, and we'll double click that and see it went back to normal. So, and then like column D here, we'll go to the right of it and it changes to fit correctly. Another way you can do it is select all of your columns, and what I'm doing is holding shift and I'm going to go to column F, and that highlights all of them, and I'm going to double click and it changes this width automatically of all the columns that I have selected. It can make your data look a lot cleaner by having things organized by correct width. You can also change your size, like if you want to change your height of your row, we're in row 3, we right click, you can change row height. Columns are the same way, you can right click and change column width. So if you have several of them, say we want to go A through F, we can right click, column width. Right now it says 8.11, we can do 12, hit OK, and all of them are wider. So when I go to the 2018 tab, you can see this table is pretty cleaned up. Everything looks as it should, fully filled out, quarter 1, quarter 2, each of the stores, the total, min, max, and average. We're going to do all that with the 2019 tab here. So first we're going to format as table. I'm going to highlight from store. I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to go down here to the total column and row. And then in my home tab, I'm going to go to styles and format as table. I kind of like this one right here, medium. And what it's telling me is where it's going to be. It's going to be an A2 all the way down to F8. That's what this means here. And then I've got this checked that my table has headers because I do. I have store quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 in total. We're going to click OK. And as you can tell, it has formatted the table. It's even given me some down arrows here. If you click on that, you can select data, you can search for data, you can sort your data, smallest to largest, largest to smallest, sort by color. That's a custom sort we're not going to learn in this video, but there's a lot of options for sorting your data here. So now that we've got this cleaned up, we need to do the header. So in 2018, we've got a nice header. It's got size is 14 font. So we're going to go here. You can either drop down and choose 14, or you can use the A with the up arrow or up caret. And then we're going to highlight all these cells, A1 through F1, and we're going to go to merge and center and just click it. It automatically centered 2019 in the width here, and the width of the column is the whole width of my table. And as my table changes, so does that width there, because I've got it tied in by selecting A through F, just like what my table is A through F. Next, you see how nice and clean this is as far as size? We need to adjust the size, but before we adjust the size of our columns, we need to format all of our data. So we're going to highlight our data, and I'm going to go up here to the $, and I'm going to click that for accounting. Now what this did was English, United States dollars. So now what I want to do is just highlight A through F, and I'm going to double click to automatically format that size. As you can tell, that still looks a little bit smaller, so what we need to do is we need to up our font size to 12. So that's a little bit better. To finish out the sizing of our table, we need to find the totals. So for store 1000, we've got all 4 quarters of 2019 filled out. So we go and click inside of cell F3, which is the total for all of store 1000. And we're going to do the sum formula. There's a few different ways to do this. I'm going to show you one way. So to do the sum formula, what we're going to do is we're going to hit equals, and then we're going to type in sum. And as you can tell, we've got a lot of formulas popping up here. So we're just going to take the first one. We're going to do a parenthesis, so shift 9. And then what we're going to do is highlight all of these cells that we need, which is going to be B3 through E3. Or if you look in the formula bar, it's going to tell you in this table, which is table 2, because table 1 is 2018, it's going to take everything from quarter 1 to quarter 4 for store 1000. And then we can either hit enter, or we can do shift parentheses to close it and hit enter. So as you can tell, this auto-populated, which is great. It went ahead and filled in all of our data for us for each of the columns. Since this is in a table, Microsoft Excel is smart enough to go ahead and autofill for us. And as you can tell, it tried it down here with the $, but there's nothing in this row to fill up. So now we're going to start doing totals of the columns for quarter 1. So we're going to click inside the cell B8, and we're going to do this a little differently. We're going to go up here into the formula bar, and we will go ahead and do equals sum, and we'll go ahead and select these, close out that sum, hit enter, and then we've got this here. Now this is having issues, but if you notice, when I hover over it, it's no longer a bunch of pound signs or number signs. It shows the actual amount. The thing that we need to figure out here is why that's happening. Well, I'm going to tell you. It's your column width is not wide enough. So we just double click on that column. It's gotten wider and the pound signs have gone away and it shows the actual number. Now that I've showed you how to do that, see when we select this box, it shows our formula up here. But if you look, there's a little square down here. This we can click and drag, and it's going to autofill the rest of these with the same formula, and it's smart enough to know to carry it to the next column so that way it's not copying this data. So again, because of these pound signs or number signs, we're just going to double click in between the columns, and it goes ahead and auto sizes it so that way we can see all of our data. So if we look back at 2018, we're almost here to what we need. So let's go back to 2019. This stuff here is also needs to be bigger, so we'll do that. So now your max formula. So you can always go over to formulas and go into auto sum, hit the drop down and find max, min, and average. Or if you already know what the formula is going to be, which I happen to, it's going to be equal sign max. And I hit enter, but it shows that there's no data here. And the reason is because I didn't select anything. Now, I don't want to select the total. I just want to select the max from the actual stores themselves. Once again, we can click on this little box and drag it all the way over. Now we need the minimums. Again, you can go into auto sum, click min. And what this is going to do is it's going to find the one directly above it, but that's not what we want. So we'll just go ahead and manually highlight that, and there we go. Let's try this again with average. Again, it's going to highlight the boxes that are directly connected to it, starting from top down. We're going to have to back out of that and get the actual data ourselves. So we've got min and average for Q1. Now we just highlight those, click and drag, and we've got the correct data through our whole table. So now 2019 is done. We have formatted the cells. We've done all of our autofills. And so we've got this table done. So now we need to go to 2020. Now that we're in 2020, I'm going to go ahead and do a repeat of 2018 and 19. So now that we're in 2020, I'm going to go ahead and format all of this. If you want to watch real quick for a moment, just as a recap for how we did 2019, feel free to, or skip ahead just a moment. Okay, so that was pretty quick and easy. Didn't take much time at all. So now you'll see a lot of pound signs and what this is. So now we've got our correct sizing in our table so far, or at least in our column so far. What you'll see down here is that the average, it's saying it can't divide by 0, and that's because I have 0 information in any of these columns. So these numbers won't work right now. These numbers are showing as blank because, or just a dash sign, because again, there's no data filled in up here. So that's nothing to worry about, because as we fill in the data will start to fix that. So don't be too concerned. But if you ever have data in here and you're going, well, this isn't working, you need to check that your formula is correctly selecting the correct cells. So I showed you some of the autofill features here. I want to show you a few more. Say you have something where you are dealing with the months of the year. Well, we type in January and then boom, we go down to December. Or another cool thing is type in January And we're going to pull down a little bit further. It starts to repeat. That's pretty cool. But also, if I have a 1 here, I can just go ahead and drag it down, and it'll just do 1s. Or I can hit this little down arrow. That just copied cells. What I want is fill series. Now I've got 1 through 14. There's a lot of cool features that you can do here. So utilize the auto sum or the autofill feature as much as possible, like what I did with max and min. You just fill in this first column and then you drag over. It's smart enough to know where to fit everything with which data to select. Excel is extremely smart and powerful tool. Sometimes it can be too powerful and try to predict things, and it's like, no, I didn't want that. So always be cautious, verify your data before submitting it. Now this also works with dates too. So today is March 21st, 2020. We can drag that down and it automatically starts going in order of dates. So if you have a column that you need to fill with dates, this works very well. And just like with months, it will work with days of the week as well. So lots of cool things to do there. Just a few more final tricks here as we wrap up the video. When you look here at this column of numbers, go down to the bottom bar and you'll see that it shows your average, your count, your sum. So the sum of all these numbers is 105. There's 14 cells selected, which is correct, and the average is 7.5. Well, say you want some more data on there. Right click and choose your min, your max. You can do number counts, accessibility checker, macro recorder. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. When you go in and highlight your cells and right click, you can clear contents, delete, or insert. We're going to clear contents and it wipes it clear. I'm going to show you here when we clear contents, it also clears formatting. Now we don't want that, so we're going to undo that with Control Z. Just know that when you clear contents, it's going to wipe it out, including formatting. But if you do delete, you can choose to shift cells up, shift cells left, shift your entire row or column depending on what you need, and it'll wipe it all out and move things around accordingly. One final thing. So we're going to click in this box here. It's going to be A1. Even though we merged A through F, it still counts as A1 because that's the top left. We're going to go into Insert and we're going to go into Link. We can choose whatever things that we want to insert. Just like in Microsoft Word, you can choose google.com or microsoft.com or youtube.com, whatever link that you want. You can choose to do documents and so on and so forth. We're going to choose the document that I worked on in the Word videos, and that is information technology security. So we're going to click on that. It changed our formatting, so we can go in here, but if you click on that box, it's going to open that document. So, and yep, that is the correct document. So one way you can go about it, instead of clicking on it by accident, you can arrow over to it, go into home, and we're going to change that back up to 14 on the font. I don't really like the blue, so we're going to go back to black, but I'm going to leave it underlined so that way, and it will even italicize it so that way I know it's a link. Again, very powerful tools, lots of cool things you can do. Excel is extremely smart, extremely powerful. It can be overwhelming, but that's why we have these videos to help guide you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to leave those down below, because I know sometimes Excel can be a little scary at times. But thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and watch out for more of these tutorial videos.